In this video, I will show you top 10 tips on how to get the highest scores in God of War Ragnarok Valhalla. And let's start off with the first tip, which is luck. And I'm actually being serious. Most of the other tips also requires luck. So let's say you don't do it in the first run, it's okay, you can just play more and hopefully you'll do it, because literally you'll need luck to get high scores in Valhalla. And now for the second tip, which is the difficulty. I want to point out that difficulties matter so much when it comes to scores and overall rewards in the game. And why does it matter? Because in Valhalla, the harder difficulty you play at, the more rewards you get. So basically, to get the highest score in Valhalla, you'll have to play on the hardest difficulty, which is Show Me Mastery. And now for the third tip, which is you must never proceed in the Ascending Sands boss fight when you have less than 1600 fleeting echoes. I mean, okay, if you have, for example, 1500, 1400 perhaps, you can proceed, but you'll not get a lot of score. And for a lot of scores, I'm talking about 114k, 115k, and possibly even more. But if you want to get more than that, you'll have to get between 1600 and 1800, and possibly even more, before you proceed in the Ascending Sands boss fight. And how can you do that? Basically, when you just finish the first two encounters, when you have entered Valhalla, you must look for that chamber that has the question mark icon on it. And why? Because that chamber includes 3 encounters. Each one will grant you fleeting echoes. And remember, of course, fleeting echoes equals score. So the more fleeting echoes you gain, the more score you gain. And since that chamber have 3 encounters, you can gain a lot of fleeting echoes out of that chamber. And not only that, the good thing is that that chamber have 3 random chests that randomly change every time you enter that chamber. And if you're lucky enough, you will find the fleeting echoes chest. And that's the important part, is finding that fleeting echoes chest. If you don't find it, you'll have to restart the entire run. And that chest will give you 252 fleeting echoes, which is massive for a chest. And after you're done with that chamber, all you have to do is just enter the other 2 chambers, because you'll enter 4 chambers in the lower realms. 3 chambers that it's up to you to decide which one, and the final one is where the Valhalla's chosen slain will be spawned at. And the first one, like I said, has to be that chamber with the question mark, and the rest, or the other 2, must be the fleeting echoes chambers, where there's fleeting echoes icon on the door. And you can, of course, obviously enter fleeting echoes chamber and then the question mark chamber and then fleeting echoes chamber again. But I will tell you that the question mark chamber will never be the third one. It will either be the first or the second. It can never be the third one. So if it's not the first or the second one, you're gonna have to leave and redo the entire run as well. And now for the fourth tip, which is the weapon path. Because look, basically, I'm pretty sure any weapon path can grant you a lot of fleeting echoes. But there's one specific path that will gain you even more, and I will tell you why, which is Path of Blades. Because I've noticed that, for example, if we enter the question mark chamber that I mentioned before, I have noticed that on every encounter you gain more fleeting echoes than you gain using, for example, Path of Spear or Path of Axe in the same chamber. I will even show you the difference between Path of Spear and Path of Blades. So yeah, to get the highest scores, choose Path of Blades. Although, if you still wanna get some high scores but with other paths, you can also do that, but keep in mind that you will gain less score if you don't do Path of Blades. And now for the fifth tip, which is an important one that a lot of people should know, is that you must never die in the entire run, because one death equals less score. So basically, let's say you're closing the rifts in Greece and you die in one of them, let's say in the third rift, and you just die. You can just continue play the game, and you will notice that the amount of fleeting echoes that you're gonna gain did not really drop, but once you start fighting Tyr and you defeat him, the amount of fleeting echoes you will get will be way less. Let's say, for example, you did a run that had 90,000 fleeting echoes, okay? 90,000 fleeting echoes, or 90,000 score in general, after closing all rifts and defeating the Berserker in Greece. But before you enter Tyr and start fighting him, you have died once or twice. And after you defeat him, you will gain basically 112k, 110k, but if you hadn't died, you could have got more than 115k even. So yeah, if you die, don't use your resurrection stone. You're gonna have to restart the entire run in order to get high scores. So try not to die. Now for the sixth tip, which is buy and break, which is extremely important and useful for you. So basically, buy and break is just when you buy glyphs, even when you don't use them, or actually especially when you don't use them or you hate them, you can buy them and destroy them to get more score. For example, let's say you got a glyph, like a golden glyph, or maybe even a perfect glyph, which is the red glyph that you actually don't like so much. For example, I don't like Last Grasp, and it's a perfect glyph. So what I should do is just, I get it, even if it costs me money, I should get it and then destroy it, because it'll give me 50 fleeting echoes. So don't just leave it, like get it and then destroy it to get more score. And basically, if you destroy silver glyphs or weapon glyphs, both of them will give you 10 fleeting echoes each. The golden ones will give you 30 fleeting echoes each one you destroy, and like I said, the red ones or perfect glyphs will give you 50 every time you destroy one. And for the seventh tip, which is also an extremely important tip, and it's actually the top one important tip, which is you'll have to close all the Greek rifts in a specific order. So for example, the first rift that you're gonna close must not be red and then you just close a blue one and then you just keep closing rifts randomly. No, there's a specific order that you must do to get the highest score possible, which is blue, gold, Aegean Sea, gold, Desert of Lost Souls, blue, shimmering, red, and especially that one in the middle, and another red, and gold, shimmering, Berserker, and finally shimmering red. Close all those rifts in that exact order and you'll gain the highest score ever. And also, I just want to note that while closing the rifts in both the Aegean Sea and Desert of Lost Souls, you don't have to worry about the timer in the Desert of Lost Souls especially, because let's say you close that rift after a long time, it doesn't matter as long as you closed it in gold tier, because that's the important part. You can't close the rift in bronze or silver. If you do that, you're also gonna have to restart the entire run. So you're gonna have to close both Aegean Sea Rift and Desert of Lost Souls Rift at gold and not bronze nor silver. And now for the 8th tip, which is you'll have to defeat enemies as much as possible before it's level 3. Just in case if you didn't know, while for example going for a specific rift, you just encounter some undead legionnaire and harpies even, and other enemies of course like nightmares, etc. They just spawn out of nowhere. Instead of ignoring them, you actually have to defeat them, because every encounter equals 19 fleeting echoes, and the more encounters you do, the more fleeting echoes you gain, of course. And like I said, more fleeting echoes equals more score. And why did I say before level 3? Because basically when that timer at the top of the screen reaches level 3, you can still fight enemies, yes, but they will no longer give you any fleeting echoes when you defeat them. So you're gonna have to defeat as much enemies as possible before level 3. So you can basically only gain fleeting echoes out of those enemies between level 1 and 2. But more than that, you can't. And now for the 9th tip, which is make sure that you have destroyed all vases and pots everywhere. Literally everywhere. Because it is important to destroy them, because they can give you good amount of fleeting echoes. And now for the 10th and the final tip, which is may not be like an actual real tip, it's more of a reminder, which is don't forget that fleeting echoes chest in the higher realms. And also I just wanted to point out that there's a random chamber which is called, I'm pretty sure, Alcove of Preference. There's also other 2 chambers that are similar, but I forgot their names exactly. But what you're gonna focus on is Alcove of Preference. So basically that chamber will include 2 legendary chests, and sometimes one of them is a fleeting echoes chest. And if you get it, especially at the lower realms, you will gain significantly a lot of fleeting echoes or score at the end. But of course, you can also still get that chamber, or you can still enter that chamber when you just closed a Gene Sea Rift or a Desert of Lost Souls Rift. But mostly you get it at the lower realms. And keep in mind that you don't always get Alcove of Preference. Like I said, you get the other 2 chambers. And I just wanted to remember that if you enter that Alcove of Preference, and I want you to remember as well, it's randomly, okay? And especially it will include a Fleeting Echoes chest. You gotta know that you are extremely lucky at that point, because it is so hard to get that chamber while also with the Fleeting Echoes chest on it. So yeah, this is basically the top 10 tips that I want you to know to get the highest scores in Valhalla. And I hope that you have learned and understood everything you'll need to do to get high scores, and I really hope that you enjoy Valhalla and you get the highest score ever. Again, thank you for watching, and thank you for your support, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in a future video. Goodbye.